I hope wherever you're at in the world or in the universe or in the multiverse that you are well. I'm just going to turn off this heater so there's not as much noise interference. I was not going to go live today, but a message is coming through that I am being nudged to share with the collective and hold space around a conversation related to twin flames. So I want to talk about it with y'all. It's a pretty open forum, so I'm going to be focusing the lives for a little bit on doing Q&As. So not so much like a specific topic that I'm lecturing on. I kind of want to hold space for folks who have questions so I can answer them, or we can learn from each other and see what's what. So the question is, do you think twin flames are real? What do you think about twin flames? And we'll take it from there. And if you want, you can share some, I don't know, something. Y'all gotta share something. What's going on out there, y'all? I see y'all in the chat. Are y'all gonna say anything? Or what? What's going on? It's okay. I'm a lurker too. I'm a big lurker on on YouTube. Sometimes that's why I actually don't usually view lives, because I like to watch a live after the fact, because I don't know, I get nervous with all the energy. But also there's benefits to having lives. So, hey Marina Silva, that name sounds familiar. That sounds real familiar. Yeah, let me know if where I might know you from. Hi. Okay, so what prompted this conversation? I'm gonna just give it to you straight, y'all. I'm gonna give it to you straight. Some people may have looked at the thumbnail that I shared and been like, what? She talking about twin flames? What? She going all left, right, and sideways with it, with her content. Like, first she's talking about healing from the false twin flame and how the twin flame is, you know, a control structure. And now we're having a twin flames Q&A. Like, what's going on? Oh, from Brazil. That's so, I love Brazil. I haven't been yet, but I have a, like, part of I have a huge connection to Brazil, and I will be definitely going one day. And I think, oddly enough, that Brazil has something to do with this conversation. I was doing a reading on some of these frequencies, and I got South America and immediately thought of Brazil. So I think that's kind of interesting. How about anyone else? Where are y'all from? What's going on? Let's get some interaction in the chat. Okay? Let's have some reciprocity in the chat. All right? Or else, why do the lives at all? That's my question. Like, why do the lives at all? Oh, thank you. She says, you will be very welcome here. Awesome. Okay, let me get into the story, and then if questions come up, I'll answer them. Okay. Or questions, comments, whatever kind of comes to the surface with this. All right, let's get into it. So I've been having like a weird push-pull dynamic with the twin flames. Okay, so I share a lot more about this in the recent workshop that I did for Patreon. And we did a really big deep dive into this twin flames dynamic. And this particular conversation is going to really resonate with you if you have been connecting with dragon energy, the energy of dragons. Like, there's a big dragon energy in your purpose, or why you're here, your consciousness. That dragons have something to do with it. So I have been connecting with dragons for years, right? But I never I don't know. The energies that I've been working with recently are a lot different, and they're more prominent now. And they're prominent because I finally agreed to something I had been fighting for a really, really long time, which was to connect with this energy of divine partnership, for lack of a better word. I don't even know if I like that. I don't even know if I like that terminology, to be honest. Maybe, I don't even know, like maybe sacred partnership. So many words have spells. So even sacred sometimes can have some energies in it. Um, but it wasn't until I realized that I really needed to make a commitment for divine partnership, for lack of a better word, twin flame, connecting with that aspect of my consciousness where we share that twin spark. It wasn't until I said, all right, I'll do it, that I was able to have a much clearer channel with the dragons. Because the information I'm getting, and I'll be, a lot of their information is being channeled through me currently. They don't really want to work with folks if they're not interested in divine partnership. Okay, if they're not interested in connecting with that twin aspect, they will help you to get you to the realization of connecting with your twin aspect, but they won't really mess with you like that until you remember why you're doing it. So I'm gonna let that sink in for a bit. Hi, see, okay, I'm sorry if I pronounced this incorrectly. First of all, hi, Julia Lopez. Yes, highs are good, y'all. And then Siak S3F. Hi, Heather, love you. And I'm gonna do something I don't normally do, but I'm doing a lot of things right now, stepping outside of my comfort zone. If you are hanging out in this conversation, like, give it a like, okay? Show some kind of energy of, like, I guess you could say contribution, or maybe more recognition, right? By giving it a like, because it does help the algorithm, alert other people. I normally don't ask for likes or even say that, but I'm being told to step out of my comfort zone and work with this concept of community building, shared resonance, okay? Thank you for the person who So I'm doing it, all right? So anyway, thank you for that. So we're going to be talking, so Jin Hari, we're going to be talking about twin flames and this concept of divine partnership. And this has come up through a lot of the channelings I've been doing with the dragon consciousness. And this is I think this is a different perspective that I'm going to share as it relates to twin flames. I don't think a lot of people talk about twin flames, like, or thinking about them the way I'm going to talk about them. I'm not saying that my perspective on this is right or the only way to look at it, but I've been navigating this whole twin flame journey for a long time. I've navigated not thinking that they weren't real. Okay. I navigated, like, ooh, I don't want that. That seems like too traumatic. Like, I'm good. Just give me a regular partner. I don't know about this whole twin flame stuff. I've navigated being involved with a false twin flame, and or quote unquote false twin flame. What I think it is okay. So first of all, this simulation is built upon polarity, this universe that we're on, okay, and the rules that govern this simulation's game board. And I do see it as a game board. I see it as some kind of like a virtual interface that we're interacting with. This is why when you start having your spiritual awakenings and whatnot, they say that Earth is a school, okay? So they'll tell you that Earth is a school and that we're here to learn lessons and that we're here to grow and evolve. And then they say, like, oh, you have soul contracts with different people in your world. And these soul contracts are, they were written out before you incarnated, and it's so that you can learn certain lessons and teach each other certain things. And the concept with this whole Earth school is that if you have somebody in your life that is really challenging for you, it's because you're supposed to learn and grow from it. Okay, that's what the whole Earth School thing is about. But I was seeing too many inconsistencies with this concept of an Earth School, because I'm like, well, if this is a school, why don't we have access to our records so we can know what we need to grow and improve on? And why does it feel like we don't, like, everything is kind of opposite, you know, even though when we spiritually evolve, we're supposed to be leaning more into love, leaning more into reciprocity, leaning more into abundance, the nature, environmental consciousness, unity consciousness. Why is it that we're in a realm where it seems like everything feels oppositional to it? It just felt like it started to feel more like a distorted kind of game board. And I went on my whole ascension path, and I looked at the whole twin flame thing from the ascension path, but it just felt like there were always all of these obstructions related to the twin flame. And it seemed like it was an energy harvesting kind of tool, you know, like the best way I can describe it is like the Hunger Games. If y'all have seen the Hunger Games series and you see Katniss and Peeta, those two lead characters in the Hunger Games, and how they basically are put in this you know, match together that they didn't ask to be in it. They didn't ask to be in this quote unquote game, but they're in it. And they, you know, Katniss started in the Hunger Games in that movie. She didn't really like Peeta like that. She was just trying to stay alive and win the Hunger Games. And it was told to her by the sponsors of the games, like, hey, act like you guys are in a relationship, act like you love each other, you know? And how many times does that happen, right? Like if it's a reality show, or even like if we're on Instagram and stuff, like sometimes it's beneficial in our culture, right, to have a partner that you could put in a photo, like on social media, right? It kind of up levels your social credit. Okay, so I started to see like the energy harvesting dynamics of the twin flame, and completely disconnected, because it seemed like whenever I was navigating a twin flame journey, that things got more painful or things got more harsh and all that. And I started doing research on the history of this planet, the history of humanity. And I've always been attracted to the dragons and the history specifically of Tiamat, right? I don't know if y'all know about Tiamat. Big ups to Tiamat, that energy. But, you know, we want to get out of that Tiamat energy, actually, because that is the fall of the dragon. If you are really connected to Tiamat's story, you don't want to be in the fall, because in Tiamat, what happened is that she was taken over by the energies of Marduk. So Tiamat was a sea dragon or a sea serpent, and the sea ruled the lands, okay? But as it goes on the Anunnaki, the way they tell the story and whatnot is Marduk overcame Tiamat, okay? And that was the rise of the patriarchy. So there's a lot of I'll say womb-coded individuals. Sometimes I'll say womb-coded individuals. Sometimes I'll say XX chromosome. I don't like saying women because it's saying that you're of a man, and that's like an inversion. So I don't really like to say women like that, okay? I don't see myself as a woman. Okay, let me just stop real quick and see what the comments are. Hi, cute girl. No, I don't do general readings. Did it make it seem like I was going to do a general reading? Web simulation. What's outside the simulation? Okay, and then Barney says Tiamat, queen of chromatic dragons. I actually never heard of that term, chromatic dragons. Okay, what's outside the simulation? That's a good question. I think there are degrees. I think that what we're dealing with right now is frequency bandwidths. I think a lot of us are in a certain frequency bandwidth, and we're supposed to transcend and expand our consciousness into another frequency bandwidth. That's what I see as happening right now. But there's been a lot of, there's very powerful beings on this planet right now who are already powerful in their own right. They're just powerful by their own existence. They don't need anybody else to be powerful. But there's a certain alchemy that could happen, right? If those beings pair up with their soul spark in the simulation. And I see it as a game board. So I don't necessarily think that, the twin flame is the be all and end all, but the way the universe is constructed is one of polarity and binary. And a lot of the ways our family structures have been orchestrated and organized has been based upon binary. Breeding, this is a whole breeding program. And so getting into the histories of, whatever kind of star seed or human history stuff that you move into, the energies are relatively the same. That at some point that it started out, on this planet, that it was more of a feminine energy. It wasn't women energy, but let's just say feminine parthiogenic energy, which were self-seeding, self-creating feminines who were able to, if they wanted to create, they were able to do it from themselves because they had an integrated masculine and feminine. So their wholeness was within. But many, many stories in the starseed stuff, in the occult materials, they talk about how there was a patriarchal shift. Okay, there was a patriarchal shift at one point, and then it became that the womb became more of a harvesting station, and the powers of the womb got attached to an outside male counterpart. And this is how we get into the energies too of the Y chromosome. The Y chromosome is a little bit of a genetic mutation. Just gonna say it. It is what it is. Okay. And there's an interesting thing happening on this planet right now where the Y chromosome is struggling. Okay. There's a struggle with the Y chromosome. There's been too much of an imbalance with the patriarchy. Now, this isn't said from a victim standpoint, like, oh, poor women, we got subjugated and this and this and that, because there's another story that says during the times in matriarchy, when it was more of a matriarchy, they said that the feminine energies were wilding out and treating men like slaves and, all that kind of stuff, and that they even created men to be their playthings. Okay, so there's that aspect too. So if you've been having energies related to patriarchal stuff or patriarchal domination, people who have the spirit of Tiamat within them, who remember Tiamat, a lot of times you have been in a more of a dark feminine sort of thing where you've had to do a lot of shadow work and a lot of shadow healing as it relates to males. All right, as it relates to the masculine, because you might be holding codes in your womb or in your records or in your program's algorithm. Okay, however you want to look at it. I'm trying to be open because this whole concept of the game board and the simulation, we're still warming up to it. So even if you don't believe in the whole simulation thing, totally fine. You could, if you're more of into ascension or starseed, that energy, the same kind of stuff applies. So what's happening though, because we've been at such a state of polarity as it relates to the patriarchy and the masculine, there is now a return of the matriarchy. And what's happening with that is we need to reconcile all of the ways things have been out of balance, not from a state of victimhood, but from a state of what I'm calling polar harmonics. Okay, we need to evolve into a new type of relationship with each other to restore the imbalance, to restore a lot of the hurt and pain that, to be frankly, has been caused on both sides. The feminine, if you are a womb-coded individual, you are so powerful. Literally, your womb has the power to create worlds. You carry that frequency in you. That's very dangerous. Okay, so that's why it's been suppressed. And it's very possible that somewhere in your genetic lineage, you may have created the XY chromosome. Okay, this is where we also get into the story of Sophia and the Archons. I believe that is an allegory for this energy of, at first, there was a parthiogenic matriarchal frequency on this planet or in this universe. And then Sophia created the Archons. And it says that she created not with another partner. And it was almost like because she didn't create with another partner, she was in a state of imbalance because of that. And then she created an imbalanced creation known as the Archons, who see themselves as the rulers of this planet, the rulers of this universe. And they don't remember source because Sophia fell and created them. So there's even an allegory out there that says that the reason why people who have an XX chromosome or who are womb coded, the reason why life is so hard for you is because you fell in consciousness and created your oppressor. That's one narrative out there. I'm not saying it's right or it's wrong, but these are the energies that we have. This is also the energy of Lilith. Lilith has been coming up really strong as well. She's supposed to be the mother of demons, Adam's disgraced first wife. I did a whole download on Lilith like about a year ago now that you can see on the lives as well. Ooh, we got 1212. I'm going to look at the comments in just a moment. I'm going to riff for a bit, but please keep asking questions, asking or saying comments. I will get to them if they are on the topic of this concept of twin flames. Okay, that's a pretty big topic right there. I'll connect with y'all on that. So, I was of the mindset for a while, once I was healing from my false twin flame journey. Well, first I was on a huge reclamation journey, knowing how the womb has been harvested, how the heart has been harvested, how this relates to our financial structure, how this relates to power dynamics. I was playing out a lot of these roles related to Tiamat. Also Lumeria, that's another, if you're interested in Lumeria, it has some of the similar themes of Tiamat. Lumeria was more of a water-based, feminine, matriarchal type society that was a little bit more in unity consciousness, and then got taken over by Atlantis, which was a little bit more of a patriarchal, technological sort of energy as well. Okay, so if you connect to these things, also the energies of the siren, you notice how Tiamat is of the water, Lumeria is of the water. Sophia, her color is blue, so that's automatically the waters, okay? So this is the story of the fallen matriarch. A lot of times you can find it in the waters. So if you're attached to a lot of those water-based stories and mythologies or timelines, then this is you reconciling some of this energies related to the fall of the matriarchy. So I was going through my own healing journey and retrieving all of my energy and also unlearning codependency. Because if you've been in like a false twin flame dynamic, or if you've just been in that kind of dynamic, a lot of times there is an imbalance that needs, if y'all are both not on an evolutionary path with each other, and a lot of times, a lot of twin flames, they're not. One is usually kind of more of the spiritual thing, and because we're in this like binary coded matrix, usually the other one is going to be the opposite, because the idea is to merge the opposites, right? And then this is supposed to be a greater spiritual lesson or teaching that you're supposed to absorb as you move through Earth school. Okay, I think it's a mixture between a school and a game. Okay, but I do think that there is like a weird gamified approach, like the school thing. School isn't always fair, right? Like there's a lot of inequity in school. It has to do with who the administration is. So if Earth is a school, or if the universe is a school, the question would need to be asked, well, who are the administrators? Why was the school created? Who makes the decisions on how policies happen in this school? We don't get any of that information. We're just supposed to just accept that we're in a school and that everything that's happening to us is for our higher growth and development. And that's supposed to be the end of that. So I had a lot of questions, and I stepped out of a lot of the ascension teachings. I went on a descension path. I went into the underworld. And, also, just so y'all know, that's a part of this simulations game board. If you think you're going to advance spiritually. And when I say advance spiritually, there are people here who don't want to keep reincarnating over and over again. There are people incarnated right now who are interested in multidimensional travel, who are interested in interstellar travel, these kinds of things. There's only a fraction. If we are in a third dimensional control matrix, or it doesn't even have to be 3D, because the control matrices can happen in a lot of different dimensions. But if we are in some kind of a control matrix, then, and if you've been feeling that, then what's on the other side of that? And that gets into that question that was asked earlier around, well, what's outside of the simulation? Even the fact that that question was raised, there are people who are seated on this planet, who have been incarnated on this planet to cross a threshold, to cross a boundary, to cross a road to more interdimensional consciousness. And I'm not going to go too much into this live around what I think that is. I think it's a little, my ideas are a little different on that. All I know is that I was seeing the whole twin flame dynamic as an energy harvesting scheme. I was seeing it more as like a patriarchal ploy to keep the XX chromosome invested in the simulation's game board, in this false hope of finding your soulmate and all that stuff, and going through all these trials, tests, and tribulations related to it. This is actually a lot about what the Lionsgate portal is about, y'all. You know, even if you look at that Hunger Games trilogy, and you look at a lot of the symbolism, you can see Lionsgate, you can see a lot of the, you know, I'm not going to go through all the decoding with that movie, but it's a big tale around twin flames. And I believe that movie and that book series is kind of letting you know how the twin flame program plays out. And, you know, Katniss ends up staying with Peeta and loves Peeta, but it's kind of because they went through so much trauma together, you know, and they bonded through the trauma, and they did love each other, but it wasn't her choice. It wasn't her choice to be paired up with Peeta. You know, she didn't do it out of her own free will. She did it to advance. She did it to stay alive. Okay. And that is the energy that a lot of womb-coded beings are navigating right now. Especially if you are dragon coded. If you're dragon coded, you're ancient. You have access to the records of this planet, of very old records of this planet. You're holding sometimes certain timelines in place because of this really strong ancient consciousness. This consciousness is so strong and ancient, but just like the fall of Tiamat, right? You know, Tiamat got defeated by Marduk, and Marduk built his empire on Tiamat's body, basically, okay? He built his empire off of her back. So yeah, the dragon is super strong and super powerful and all of that. But at the same time, the dragon can be energy harvested. We have these things on the planet right now called dragon lines, also known as ley lines. There is a particular magical practice called geomancy that many world leaders are very literate in. They know all about it, okay? Especially as it relates to the art of war and how war is played out. A lot of times wars are played out on different ley lines. Okay, those are dragon lines. So it's even showing this energy of like the power of the dragon sometimes is being utilized as an energy harvesting tool. And a lot of us have been feeling this in our own bodies, in our own ways of knowing on this planet. So why did I come to a conclusion that I am going to invest the energy and the time with connecting with my divine counterpart? That is the question I'm going to answer. But first, let's see what the comments are saying. Let's see. Okay, oh, hey, Leslie. Oh, hey, Bethany. Oh, look at everybody. Hey, guys. Bethany says, hey, hi, Heather. Thank you for making time for this topic today. You're welcome. You know, so I'm working a lot with dragon energy right now, y'all, and they don't play. Like, if they're gonna connect with you like that, like they have expectations in the sense of like, you can't just, we're not just gonna give you information and you're just gonna be like, oh, that's interesting. No, they want people to communicate what these messages are. Okay. So I was getting that. I wasn't planning on going live, or I was going to be in chill mode, research mode today, but they're like, no, get this message out. I'm like, all right, all right. I think it has to do with the Super Bowl, and we'll get into that in a little bit. I think it, that's a whole womb ritual, y'all, the Super Bowl. We'll get into that a little later. But I think that's why I'm going live, is because I was tapping into a lot of these Super Bowl energies. I don't like sports. I had to look up what teams were playing in the Super Bowl, and then I had to look up where these teams like are from. Just because like if you looked up, okay, who's playing the Super Bowl, it'll just tell you the two teams. But I'm like, well, where are they from? I don't know. Like I don't do football like that, So, but I feel these like whenever the Super Bowl comes, I know. I don't watch TV like that. I have no interest, but I am connected to a particular root system where I know when stuff is going down related to the Super Bowl. So we'll tap into that, and I'll see if I can even channel more messages as it relates to that, because I'm still figuring out. I have a general idea, but I don't have the details about the Super Bowl. But we'll see what arises. So I think that's why I'm going live, is because it's Super Bowl weekend. And happy Super Bowl weekend for people who like football. To each their own. Okay, Leslie Long. Hi, Heather. Was hoping to see you on here live again. It makes me feel happy and weirdly comfortable when we get to interact. Yay! I hope you are loving and being extra caring with yourself. I know I am trying. I am. That's even why I can like talk about this and be like kind of candid about this. This has always been like a big pain point for me, because it's always been, I've had all of my past life stuff. I used to do past life regressions when I was like a teenager. And the two ones I did, I stopped because they were both very similar. I think, when I got into past life regressions, or the spiritual stuff, which I got in very young, the past lives, the regressions that I did off top were about like this concept of twin flames and love and unrequited love. And there was a big pain point related to it. And it was really clear when I first tapped into the energy of my records and stuff of like, hey, you need to address this, And then I went through it in real time, and then, had to do my own healing journey and all that sort of stuff. And then I was like, you know what? This is a whole energy harvesting scheme. I'm gonna put this over here, But, and a big piece of that was I was connecting to this energy of being partheniogenic, like the dragons or like the serpent. Those are, if you're being connected with like reptilian energy, people want to be like, ooh, reptilians are bad and evil. Yeah, because they're partheniogenic. They're self-seeding a lot of time. They don't need to do the whole like I'm gonna mate with somebody outside of myself to create. They're really advanced. They don't need to do all that, So I was connecting with that primordial energy. I'm like, you know what? I can find everything I need within myself. I want to go back to the energies of being self-seeding, And we all have it to a certain extent. I think it's just about clearing the signal of it. But once I got really comfortable with me, outside of a need to being fulfilled by another partner, then I just kept getting these twin energies again. I'm like, not again, y'all. Like, I already told you, like, I'm not doing this false twin flame breeding program thing. Y'all, you're not going to put me in the breeding program. Stop. I already did it. Like, I'm done. Like I'm done with the mind control as it relates to this. I'm not doing the Hunger Games again. No. Okay. I'm not doing it. So that was kind of where I was. And then as I started getting into this energy around polar harmonics and polarity integration, and merged a lot of polarity and merged a lot of opposites within myself, I started realizing that if I kept fighting the twin flame dynamic, it would keep me in polarity. Because a part of the curriculum of this game board, or school of earth, as you want to call it, it's going to be polarity. Whoever created it, they're obsessed with twins. This is why they have us looking so much to Sirius. And this is also what I'm going to get in a little bit more into this whole Lionsgate thing. Sirius is a binary star system. And, we have to ask, why are we, of all the stars in the whole galaxy, why are we constantly being told to look towards like 3 or 4 of them, but like Sirius is like the main star? Like, we really want to think about that. Like, what is the energy related to that? Because it seems like a very restricted access as it relates to the stars. But, I was doing a lot of research related to the Dogon tribe. They talk a lot about Sirius through the Dogon tribe. The Dogon tribe is also extremely obsessed with twins and pairings and stuff like that. And because this universe is based in polarity, it makes sense that if you want to master the energies of this planet, and I think that there's a group of people, more of a dragon consciousness, more of a very old and ancient consciousness, that know they need to spiritually evolve off of this planet. So that means you need to master the game board on this planet. And that is polarity. Okay, that doesn't mean you stay polarized. If you stay polarized, a lot of times you stay within the control mechanisms of the simulation. But if you transcend polarity and move from a state of neutrality or polar harmonics, the best way I can describe it would be the like more of a Buddhist sort of path, but not the Buddhism that they show you, right? Where Buddha's just like sitting on the mountain being super peaceful. There's another polarity to Buddha who's more wrathful, okay? Like, don't mess with Buddha, because Buddha will just mirror, because Buddha will always stay at 0 point. So if you get on the more negative octave of Buddha, then what will happen is you'll get that mirrored right back to you, okay? Because Buddha's going to stay in 0 point. So Buddha's not going to take your energy. Buddha's not going to take anything you throw at them. I see Buddha as a male and female consciousness. They'll just mirror it back to you. So, and you have to take care of it. So there's a more of a dangerous degree to Buddha, as you would say. Okay, and this is why in Buddhism they talk a lot about the Eightfold Path, because really you want to get to the frequency of 8. 8 is known as being it's kind of, I don't want to call it a Stargate. There's a portal as it relates to 8, because you turn 8 on itself, it becomes infinity, right? So there's like an infinity energy. This is when you can get into a galactic energy, but there's a lot of interferences in this, y'all. So many things, right? Because there is some kind of consciousness that wants to keep us cycling in and out, because there is a consciousness that is benefiting from a breeding program, from a pairing program, for keeping things as they've been for a little bit, which don't really seem to be working for the overall well-being of the planet or the inhabitants of that planet. Okay, so why am I now like going into this twin flame energy? Okay, I'll talk about it in a minute. Let me see what else is coming up. Wow. Gotta keep climbing just said, do you believe there's an ice wall? Whoa, I'm telling you. I mentioned this in another live that like if we're connecting at a particular time on the internet, it's because there's something that is being shared in our algorithm. I just said that I wasn't planning on going live and that I was just gonna like do some research and stuff and do some readings. Literally, I just did a reading on the ice wall, and I was seeing that there was a connection with this concept of the ice wall and this whole twin flame dynamic. I also saw it in meditation another like 2 days ago as well. So the fact that like that question out of all questions is coming up in this conversation, that's pretty cool. Yes, I do. I think it has to do with the imagination. It has to do with what we think is possible. Like they also call it a wall in time. It can also be referred to as a wall in time, where it's just like, basically you could call it Saturn. You could call it like Saturn's rings. That might be another way to even contextualize this ice wall. It's just where you reach some kind of a dimensional anchor or a frequential anchor where like until you address that ice, you can go no further. Okay. And it's something about being able to merge. Because if this simulation is a game board, right? And if we have a twin flame out there, some of us have more than one twin flame, right? Then you not merging with that twin flame or reconciling whatever stuff y'all have going on will keep you in a state of imbalance. And a lot of times that is happening through the heart space. Yeah, that's usually like happening. The whole concept of romantic union, it's seen as a hot commodity on this planet because it generates other beings to harvest from. Okay, so it is traded and bartered in galactic commerce and whatnot. And this is why this whole twin flame dynamic a lot of times is like dangled in your face, And it's like, oh, if I could just connect with my twin flame, then things would happen. And there are control matrices that basically will not allow you to, I'm not going to say allow you, but it will make it extremely difficult for you to advance if you don't connect with that twin aspect, okay? Or if you don't do what you need to do to merge that polarity, to merge those opposites, you will be left at an impasse. And we're going to talk about why that is. I'm still getting information about it. A lot has been coming through recently. But yeah, so I do believe there's an ice wall. What do I think about the law of assumption? Can you remind me what that is? Is it basically like if you assume that something is, then it is? I've seen it, but I haven't, that's not really been one of the ones I've like studied. Maybe this is a sign for me to study. Brody, I don't know what you're watching. Well, first of all, I don't know what my camera's off, so there's that. But let me know if you have a question. Jesus loves me. Thank you. I'll take that, Daron. I'll take that. Name of the Father, name of the Holy Spirit, name of the Son's video. How person have some demons are here for their own to call the name of Jesus. Amen. Yo, Daron, straight up. I just integrated with the Holy Spirit last night. I sure did. The Holy Spirit and the Shekinah, it's great. I love it. It's awesome. I'm with you. I also, though, have unified with demons as well. Okay, I'm a polarity integrator. I'm gonna merge the opposites. Because I'm not trying to be kept in a state of imbalance and polarity. So that's what I think. Yay to the Holy Spirit, yay to demons, yay to everything in between, okay? Because it's all in some way an emanation of source. And us not seeing that is showing where we are not deficient. Let me not get all polarized. It's showing where we have a lack of remembrance to source. So if you think that demons need to be cast out, then there's a part of you, Duran, that has been cast out that you might want to connect with, That reminds me of the whole concept around the evil twin. So, how they talk about the evil twin, how if twin, in West African pantheon, sometimes twins are seen as a negative omen sometimes because it's like, oh, well, one of them is going to be a little bit more on the more negative polarity. So a lot of people are healing from the twin flame dynamic from that concept of, you're healing from the twin flame dynamic of that concept of like the evil twin. You might have been paired up with like a twin where it seems like they are fighting against you. They're trying to negate everything that you're doing. Like you might be more awakened, right? And they might be like the complete opposite of that. So you may have had to navigate those energies or like literally being at war with your twin, okay? That would be a similar kind of energy that Duran was uplifting around this concept of comparing, putting the Holy Spirit over the demon, But maybe we need to see the Holy Spirit and the demon. Maybe we need to reconcile like both aspects of ourselves, like, So anyway, let's see. Tupacalypse Now. I love that. Hi, Tupacalypse Now. Womb creates everything if you think about it. You're very right. Duran says, you have no distance. You doesn't have the knowledge. I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to keep scrolling. Duran says, you want the knowledge. You want to be born somewhere. Some higher rounds you. You want to burn, then you have the knowledge. I think you might have like low key spit some bars. I'm just trying to decode it. But I think something you said is spot on. I don't see it yet. Marina says, what do you think about the law? Oh, and I think I already said that. Do Archons stop twin flame unions? It's a game, y'all. They know how important it is for you to connect with all aspects of yourself. So, and love and romance is a commodity. It's a galactic commodity. It's not just a commodity in the third dimension. It's a galactic commodity. So yeah, they do, but I don't see Archons the way a lot of times they tell us about Archons. I see Archons. I think angels are an aspect of archonic intelligence. I think some of the energies around like different gods and deities, I think that they have an aspect of archonic intelligence. Okay, like any being that deals in rank or hierarchy, is not like focusing on source. Okay, to me that's like an archonic intelligence. Okay, and we all have it within us, so I don't see archons as being negative. But one thing I know about navigating archonic intelligences is you have to go through, in order to overcome that energy, you do have to go through a period of rank and hierarchy. And I just said this in a video I just posted, but if you're an XX chromosome or a womb coded individual, so somebody just recently said that wombs create everything, you outrank archonics and outrank archons just by that alone. You know, they tell you about that in the Gnostic texts related to Sophia's fall in consciousness, and how in her fall in consciousness, she created archons, and she's the creator mother goddess. There are other feminine intelligence that are, quote, higher than her, but she created the archons. So any archons, if you feel attacked by archons, you're on the game board anyways, you're in a state of fallenness, thinking that you're fallen. But it's an inversion, because if your intelligence created the archons, then you just are in a state of forgetfulness as it relates to it. So me actually working on mastering archonic intelligences from within, I actually got a lot of information about how the simulations game board works. And it was once I stopped fighting archons and stopped thinking that they were evil and bad and out to get me, that I was able to get a lot of the codes of the architecture of the simulation. And it actually led me to this understanding that around unifying with the twin, and how a lot of us need to step out on a limb and dream of a new kind of love. Okay, the love I'm talking about is not something that we typically see embodied. I don't see like twin flames as being like marriage and all that, because a lot of times marriage is connected to breeding, and it's connected to being tied to certain system, like control mechanisms within the simulation. So I don't know. I don't think that, a sacred union needs to be in marriage, but yeah, there is an interesting, weird catch-22 dynamic that people who are dragon coded, particularly the XX chromosomes, because from what I've been learning is it does have to go, this whole process kind of needs to be initiated through the XX chromosome. And I'm not going to go into all the logistics on this live. I might do it on another live. It gets really interesting. I talked about it in the transmission I did on Patreon, if you're interested in more of those details. What's the name of the movie? Hunger Games. And it's a book too. There's a series of books, but I think the movie is good for the visuals, because they put a lot of visuals. They put a lot of like symbols in the visuals. Hey, Lulu. Happy Saturday. Okay. Gotta keep climbing. What exactly are archons? And what do they get out of the disruption of the twin flame union? They are basically the bodyguards of the simulation. They're the bodyguards and the gatekeepers. You know how, like, when you go, let's say if you wanted to meet with a really important person, right? And you wanted to get an idea out to this really important person. You wanted to get on their calendar. You would go through a receptionist, right? And that receptionist, more likely than not, has been trained to bounce people, right? Like, they're busy. They're in Mexico. You're never going to see them again. Like they are trained to be the bouncer so that you don't get to that important person, or you don't get to that important knowledge, or what have you. So it's a constant state of rank and hierarchy. So archonic intelligences only know rank and hierarchy. So because, this is why I want to contextualize it as being a game. So just work with me here. In a game, right? If you want to, quote, level up in a game, then you would probably need to complete a challenge, right? In order to level up. Well, being united with your twin flame is like a huge level up on the game board simulation, okay? Because it does unlock, I've seen the back end of things, it does unlock a lot. It unlocks resources. It unlocks more power in general. You will be more connected, and you'll be privy to deeper information related to primordial forces. A lot of stuff happens with the grids, the planetary grid system and the ley lines and stuff like that. A lot of stuff starts getting opened up to you when you're in union. Now, why? Is it because you're less until you are unified with this partner? I don't think so. I think this is the way the game is played. Okay. So when I say that more dragon coded XX chromosomes need to make an effort to connect with their twin flame and clear all the BS interference related to it, I'm going to explain it the way it was explained to me, which made it make sense for me. Okay. So I'm gonna explain it. It's not romantic, all right? I know we're coming up on Valentine's Day. I'm not talking about, like, because this is the game of love. This isn't actually what love is, Love shouldn't have to be in competition. Love shouldn't have to be trauma, okay? But according to the control matrix's game board, this is their interpretation of love because of their lack of remembrance to source, okay? So a lot of us are navigating this game board, and we need to know exactly how it's set up. We need to know the architecture of it. We need to have all access pass to the game board. You get to a certain part of that game board where you must be in union. Okay? You need to be in union. And for some people, it can't just be anybody. Like, you can't just like pick somebody off the street and be like, I'm in union, let's go. Like, a lot of people are doing that. But there are certain people who, more so in the dragon primordial energies, who are coded to be with certain beings on this planet. And it seems like you literally have to move worlds away to get to them. Okay. I'm going to explain why it might be a good look to focus and make this your priority. So imagine that if the earth is a school, imagine that you have a class assignment that's due. It is worth 50% of your grade, maybe 70, let's even say 75% of your grade. You've been in this class for a while, and you've been doing good. You've been doing the work. You've been growing, you've been learning, but that's only 25% of your grade. Okay. That 75% is that group project. It's not even a group project. It's that one partner. You got assigned this partner before you stepped into your first day of class. You got assigned this partner. You haven't met up with this partner once. Matter of fact, you don't have any interest in seeing this partner. You're like, you know what? I can pass this class without this partner. I could do it. But that partner is worth, and you connecting with that partner is worth like 75% of your grade. So you not doing it leaves you behind. When it was explained to me in that way, and in terms of why it's orchestrated that way, I'm not going to get into the logistics of it. It probably has something to do with this intergalactic breeding program they have going on with humans and all that kind of stuff. That being said, there are certain beings incarnated on this planet right now that need access. So this is when sometimes you not playing the game leaves you at a state of imbalance. It's counterintuitive to what you originally wanted to do before you got into a state of forgetfulness. So the way I would describe the twin flame dynamic is your twin flame on some realm of or dimension also wants to spiritually evolve. They also want to transcend the reincarnation matrix, the reincarnation cycle. They also want to do that. So it's in their best interest to meet up with you, link up with you for a similar reason, not because they're like so goo goo gaga in love with you. That will, maybe that'll come with time, I'm sure, and all that stuff. You connect and y'all are in your healed state more. Sure, that'd be great. But it's really not about that. It's really about the evolution through this earth school. Okay. And what I'm learning is once you start learning about the nature of polarity on this universe's game board, you need to master the light and the dark. And you need to unify the opposites. You need to also be able to, one big piece of this whole spiritual evolution thing that they talk about is this idea of soul retrieval or of basically reclaiming all scattered parts of yourself throughout the simulations game board. If you don't do that, if you don't unite with your twin flame, like you're not completing that whole soul retrieval thing. That being said, there are beings who are invested at this time on making sure people don't evolve. So what are they going to do? They're going to make it really difficult for you to connect with your twin flame, because that would mean a greater sense of like freedom, a greater sense of authority on your part. Okay. Because right now power is generated through the legacy of partnership. Let's think about it in a royal sort of setting, right? You can't just, I'm not saying it's impossible. You definitely can be a king or a queen and not be married, but it's not as common. And how many times do people do that in leadership where they need to make concessions and marry into a certain kind of family because there's a whole like legacy kind of thing happening? It's kind of like a similar sort of energy. And then if you're a dragon coded being, you can't just be like linking up with anybody off the street. I don't care how much money they have. They want to give this whole like sprinkle movement about the whole money thing. There's an interesting, deep, very transcendent aspect to that sprinkle thing, and getting XX individuals or womb coded beings on that frequency of making sure that they're compensated through the financial system. So that's something there's a whole deeper thing as it relates to that. That being said, that's not going to sprinkle isn't going to work for everybody, especially if you're more within that primordial dragon current and you are operating off of that parthiogenic energy. Like sprinkle is not enough for you. Okay. You are, and this is how dragons, you'll notice in dragon sort, when they talk about dragons, they talk a lot about twin dragons too. Like, and this, having this sort of mate, it's, because also dragons hold a lot of records to the earth, the planetary grid as well. So the sort of energies that you're moving through as a dragon coded being, as it relates to this twin flame dynamic, it has to do with ley lines, like it has to do with frequency bandwidth. So one thing that has been made clear to me, and I'm going to be going into this more in the next workshop I give. I actually might give it on Valentine's Day. I I'm not positive, but it might be. Because I didn't really start knowing the energies I was working with, and they didn't make themselves extremely known to me until I was like, all right, fine. I get what you're saying about the twin flame dynamic. It's keeping me in a state of imbalance, me resisting it. It's kind of like holding me back from what I'm here to do. And and it was shown to me like the things that you actually want is on this path. You not going this path gets you away from what you want. So I'm like, all right, cool. I get it. I need my A. I want to get my A. I need to get my certificate. Okay, so that's kind of the energy that a lot of dragon-coded, womb-coded individuals are at right now. You need your certificate. If you don't link up with your twin flame, you're not getting, you don't even have, I'm not saying it's guaranteed that you'll get your certificate, because this is a game board. There's a lot of weird stuff going down on this, a lot of trickery that's going on. So I'm not saying it's like, oh, you're going to like run into the fields with your twin flame and live happily ever after. Probably will be, what they say, new levels, new devils. I'm sure that's the case, but you're here to advance within this game board, learn everything you need to know about it, because there's a regime change happening here. Okay. And dragons hold the codes to that. They have the codes to the land. And, dragons are moving a lot of these energies right now, actually. They're working through us. So if you get to the dragon path, first of all, they're not even looking at you like that. I mean, they might help you a little bit, but until you are at a state of maturity and a state of polarity integration, they're just going to look at you like, we'll see. I don't know. And you actually have to become a dragon. You have to see the dragon from within. And they won't be able to be a frequential match to you if not. But yeah, so we'll and a lot of the energies on this planet right now, there's a lot of dragon symbolism in certain, when you look at certain like royal lineages and certain countries, you'll find dragons, and there's a reason for that. And I'm going to give the Game of Thrones analogy. I know I talk about Game of Thrones, but there's so much there. The last scene of Game of Thrones, okay, once Bran Stark becomes the administrator of the 7 kingdoms, the 7 realms, he didn't want it. Okay, he was totally on his spiritual path. He was the 3-eyed raven. He wanted to do that, but he needed to step up into leadership because he had the vision and the foresight, which was going to lead the 7 kingdoms in the direction that it needed to go after a lot of destruction, after a lot of war. The last scene, okay, he leaves the meeting. So like the administrators are sitting around in their round table talking about the laws they're going to make and all that stuff. He wants no parts. He's like, oh, I'm going to go into meditation and find the dragon. He went to go find the dragon that ran away after the whole Mother of Dragons thing went down or whatever. Sorry if this is completely not making sense to somebody who hasn't seen Game of Thrones. Sorry, but a lot of times things that happen in movies, like they're telling you what's going on. So they're telling you that this person who just got who got accepted or voted in to be the leader of 7 kingdoms, the first thing he wanted to do was connect with the dragon. They're telling you like there's a power with dragons as it relates to the earth, as it relates to land, as it relates to leadership. Okay. And at least the dragon energy that I'm encountering right now, they really only want to work with even if hey, you might have those dragon codes, but if you haven't gotten to a state of polarity integration and unity consciousness as it relates to connecting with your twin counterpart or your sacred counterpart, whatever you want to call it, then they're not really interested in working with you, because the reason why you're a lot of times paired with that person is because there's a whole ley line planetary grid thing that's happening with y'all. It's deeper than just y'all having candy and flowers on Valentine's Day. It's not really about that. It's a whole land thing. We're talking geographical coordinates. Okay. Like a whole bunch of stuff is going on. And if you don't get to that point, then you can't do the planetary stuff, the larger stuff. If you're caught up in this myopic view of, I got hurt when when I was in this relationship, and I'm afraid to love again, and da da da. If you stay in that state of fragmentation, you don't get into the bigger energy, which is of earthly administration. Okay, and earthly administration is in the ley lines, it's in the dragon lines. And the dragons don't want to mess with you until you are in that sort of frequential bandwidth. Okay, and I was finally able to understand these messages, and I was like, oh, got you. Okay, I get what you're saying. All right, I'm in. So that's my perspective. It's not romantic. It is it's more about earthly administration. Okay, there are people who, if the old way is changing, who is going to come in and do something different? That's happening now. That training, okay, that groundwork, that field work, that fellowship, that internship, that stuff is happening now. And you need to learn about how things have been done. And you need to be prepared for earthly administration. That's not just an easy thing that just randomly happens. That could be a multi-year process. But there are people, particularly XX chromosomes, womb-coded, dragon-coded beings, Tiamat energy. Y'all, if you're carrying Tiamat, here's what you do. Start connecting with Marduk. Connect with that energy that slayed you. Become Marduk. That's what you need to do. Become Marduk. Because you were there before Marduk, right? Absorb Marduk. The 50 code, what do they call it? The 50 keys or the 50 codes of Marduk. Start studying that. Necronomicon or whatever? Study that. Embody those energies. Absorb that. Because that hurt that you're harboring, and there's a lot to be hurt over. There's a lot to be betrayed over. I get it. All right. There's a lot to be, especially if you have memory of being self-seeding and self-creating and not needing to go to another partner in order to create. Just get a sign off from another partner. It can almost feel degrading. Like, ugh, I got to do this. Are you serious? But here's the way I'll describe it. In Buddhism, when you start like getting to the administrative side of how things go down, Buddhism has some interesting tools and jewels for you. So I want you to look at the wheel of samsara in Buddhism. There are 6 realms of samsara. I don't know if I'm going to get them all, but I'm going to try. So you got the devas, which are the gods and goddesses. You got the asuras, which are known as the demigods, also known as being kind of more willful and quote unquote fallen or demonic, as that dude was, he was talking about demons earlier. That would be more of the asuras. Then you have the humans, you have the animals, you have the realm of the hungry ghosts, and then you have like hell or the underworld. I forgot the name for that. So you have a total of 6 realms. Consider, like, look at the wheel of samsara as being like a code to a video game. You would need to go into all those realms and master all those realms and acquire all your tokens in all those realms and know all those realms in order to evolve out of this simulation's quote unquote school or game board. Okay. Now, the reason why this whole twin flame concept is coming up is because of the Devic realms. The Devic realms, known as the god and goddess realms, that is like your secret society of the wheel of samsara. That is the elite. That is, you initiated, you did all this stuff, you learned all the secrets, you did all the handshakes, you went on all the retreats, you did the ritual, you did all that stuff. You did your occult alchemy for years and years, and you made it to the Deva realms. It's very like sorority, fraternity, hazing energy, okay? The Devas don't just mess with anybody. A lot of people who are tapping into different gods and goddesses and stuff, you might get some of that energy, or you might get an abstract knowing or information about working with a particular god or goddess. Maybe you're coded to be really compatible with a certain archetype on the game board. But most people need to go through the archonic principalities, master the archonic principalities, because those are the gatekeepers. Remember, I described how like archons are like the receptionists sometimes, like they can have that. That's why like the gods and the archons, they a lot of times are in the same bureaucratic department. So to get into those deva realms, there's very I'm not going to say there's high stakes, but it gets really like, oh, do you have all your paperwork? Do you have all your transcripts? Do you have your this? Do you have your that? Did you unite with your twin flame? Are you going to unite with it? Oh, you're not? Okay. Nope. Nope. Get out. Nope. Bye. That's it. Come back later if you decide something else, but no, you're declined. It gets like that. This is why people in power marry for certain, access. When you have a certain amount of power on this planet, you don't just get to choose sometimes who you fall in love with, because it's a whole administrative issue that you're moving into. Okay. That's what some people who are dragon coded, who have the codes for earthly administration, they're at this point. The gates will not open for you unless you make a commitment to go find your research partner and get an A in this class. That's twin flame union. Okay, let me stop there. I know I went off on a whole tangent. That's where we're at right now. I'm looking at the comments. Thank you, Bethany, for sharing the name. Okay. Yes, it is a beautiful day, Jeff Epstein. It's dark matter. Ooh, talk more about that. Let's talk about that. Y'all checked out the spiritual dating apps? No, I haven't. What are they? I don't, okay. I don't think you're going to find your twin flame on an app, y'all. I don't think that's how the curriculum of the simulation works. You notice how in like sometimes you'll hear gurus or spiritual people say, when they're talking about how they met their other half or their twin flame, they usually don't say like, oh, we met at a coffee shop, or, oh yeah, we met at work, or we met on Match or whatever. No, they'll usually say, I know Match is probably a really old app. I know, but I don't do dating apps, so I don't know. But they won't say that. They'll be like, I saw them in a dream. I saw them in meditation. Y'all, that's how you're going to find your twin flame. Yep. It's literally like an advanced course that you're taking. Okay. Can you manifest this? You saw them in a dream. You saw them in this timeline. Can you materialize union? Can you guys unify? Now, what I'm still in debate with right now, and I'm still moving through the energies, because this is something we talked about on Patreon, where, we talked about the technomancy of twin flames, and I've seen it in action for myself. I wasn't able to even grasp this concept of technomancy and all this stuff, and being an architect and navigating the archonic realms, until I connected with my twin flame. And I don't mean oh, we went out on a date and no, it's saw them in meditation, saw them in other ways and stuff like that. But just that idea of oh, I saw that person in meditation, and now this, and I wasn't even able to put those things together until that contact was made. And it wasn't in the same way of oh, I'm on a dating app and now we're going out for dinner, and that it's not like that. This is earthly administration. Okay. This is something that has already, they're already slated for you. You need to find them though in another realm. Okay. Because you can't even connect. This is dragon stuff. Dragons are not in the 3D. You can't connect with them in that same way if you are super caught up in the control matrix. You're going to be dragons? I didn't even know that was real. The first time I saw them, I was like, dragons are real? What? What? What did I just see? What's going on? So you're not going to really find them like that on an app. And I think you got to be careful, especially if you're a womb coded dragon being that's, if you have those primordial codes, and if you just know. You got to be careful with all that, because, there are beings, there are grid systems that see you as one big cow that gets to be milked. Okay. All right. So there's a lot of people out there that are going to be like perpetrating, playing off of your interest in spirituality and trying to make you think that they're your twin flame, and you got to, just watch out for it. You should be able to see them. You should be able to go in and see and know who they are, and work through your intuition and your guidance to connect with them. Okay. Because this is a very powerful match, and there are a lot of beings who benefit just on the game board if they interrupt that union. Okay, because this is a game, so there's this like, oh, you want this really big thing, we're gonna make it difficult for you. And then there's people who benefit from being in your presence because of the codes you carry. So there'll be a lot of what do they call it, catfishing. You will be catfished continuously. So you really need to connect with your inner vision, your inner eye. I'm going to do a Q. I think my next Q&A on YouTube is going to be around meditation and cultivating a meditation practice, and like what have been some of the challenges related to it, because I know how difficult it can be to turn within, especially in this society that, there's always something going on, right? And we have our phones and this and that. Subliminals are cool, but to get to some deeper aspects and to like get some bigger pieces of the puzzle together, you want to have not just a meditative practice where you're like alleviating anxiety and breathing and stuff, but like literally where you're going through a quantum hypnosis experience. Okay. And you are, you're going into other realms. That's a meditation practice. And I want to share a little bit around how I've cultivated it. It was very difficult for me. I used to be somebody who was threatened by meditation, who was threatened by stillness. So I had to evolve into a whole other consciousness to even meditate, and then to even generate my meditations, and now to talk about it to people. So I've been there. I know how difficult, and sometimes I'll get into periods of time where it's more difficult for me to meditate depending on where I'm at, or just the energies that I'm processing. And then I'll go more into subliminals, but the meditations are so beneficial. So I do want to hold space in another conversation on YouTube to just kind of have a dialogue with y'all around like how meditation is for you. But I'm not going to do it in this space. But I will say, for folks who are resonating with this conversation, you need to go into meditation to connect with. It's going to start a lot in the dream space or in the meditative realms. So if you're not accessing that, then that's that. So you want to like really cultivate, and if you have this energy, you naturally can do this. You just have to clear a lot of the programs that say that you can't. Okay. Let's see. Jeff is here too. Okay. Hi, Jeff, I guess. Charlotte says that's interesting. Did I just do Horniashu? What's that? I don't know what that is. Yeah, I saw Jeff on another Who is Jeff? Are you guys... You guys are messing with me. That's funny. Jeff the demon is here. Okay, so we have demons in the conversation. Yeah. You will need to... Okay, in technomancy, they call it demonic processes. There's all this like redundant code or shadow code that is running in your simulation's hologram, which is going to keep you in certain loops of maybe not wanting to unite with this individual, or maybe just thinking that love isn't worth it or partnership isn't worth it because of all these other things that happen. So you're going to have to like clear the cache, your subconscious cache of a lot of demonic they call it daemon processes in computer programming. Okay, you have to clear those daemons out, and then it's not even about clearing them out, it's also about reprogramming them, because daemons can be very helpful too. They can be like, they can help you, like they can help you, if you have a certain goal and you guys are in resonance, like they can support that energy, that consciousness, that egregore can support you. But if it's doing a whole other thing that's counterintuitive to what your goals are, you need to reel that daemon in. Okay, and get it in your program. All right, you need to be in control over those energies. But if you're just like calling demons negative, right, or demons negative, then you're not going to be able to do that. So they're going to keep being being really annoying in your life, let's just say. Okay, so Charlotte says, as a highly spiritual person, I've never really believed in the twin flame matrix. Love is amazing, but I think the true union is within. Yes, I agree. The true union is within. Like, I will say that if you try to like go find your twin flame from a state of lack or from a state of I need completion, or even if you hear this message and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm behind in earth school, I gotta find my twin flame, but I'm still hurt from this other relationship, but whatever, I gotta find my twin flame, it doesn't matter. Like, no, you actually do need to be at a complete state of like, I'm happy with myself, I am complete within myself, I am source within myself, I can find that within myself. That's when it's like you're evolving. Now another level is being presented to you. Oh, you think you're a goddess? You think you're a creator being? Okay, let's see what you can do now. Because a lot of quote unquote light workers, or a lot of people who are here to support with the planet, I've heard them, or I've read their stories, or I've heard them discuss this concept of you get to a certain point of consciousness where in order for you to advance where you want to go spiritually, then you need to unite with your twin flame. They start feeling that. Now, are these dragons? Do I think that these are real dragons, or do I think this is a dragon program? I don't know. I'm actually choosing to be a rational skeptic and say that I have entered a part of the simulations game board where I have stepped into the dragon classroom. The dragons have looked at the roster and said, okay, I have room for you in my class. All right, here we go. Go sit down. Okay, so now this is the curriculum. And now the challenge or the course is, partnership or divine union. Okay. Yeah. So that's just my perspective. I choose to, when I'm dealing with things that are really woo woo, as a polarity integrator, I like to also wear that role of I'm a rational skeptic. I need to see proof of certain things. I need to, and proof for me is like intuition, like seeing it in my inner eye or that sort of stuff. And so until I can see that, I'm going to say that, maybe the dragon stuff, it's really like, okay, are you able to know earthly administration? They work a lot with the dragon lines. They are the ley lines. So this gets into coordinates. This gets into working they told me, like the basics are you need to start working the horizontal line and the verticals. You need to know the verticals, like the parallels and the horizontals. Okay. And this is what, if you've been into like starseed stuff, or if you've been into this concept of grid work and stuff like that, you're probably tapping into this consciousness. But that grid work stuff does come with doing it, quote, in the way that's most comprehensive according to the simulations game board, because you're dealing with collective consciousness, you're dealing with planetary consciousness. You're not just connecting to the grid systems of the planet, but you're seeing how your body holds the planetary grid within it. So you're working with the planetary morphinogenic field of your consciousness. Okay. And a lot of times that's tied up with another twin consciousness that you may have been assigned and all that stuff. But you can't even access that until you've had union, love, and self-acceptance from within. Otherwise, it's not going to work out. It's going to be at a state of imbalance, and this sort of partnership needs to be more, it needs to be in a more of a state of evolution, definitely outside of a lot of the traditional control matrices and stuff. Okay. Muckman says, I'm a believer. Okay. Bethany says, that makes sense in regards to the ice wall, because when I was doing heavy shadow integration work, I got the download. I was thawing out as I was integrating. Didn't look into it more though. Yeah, it's this ice. I'm working through this riddle. There's a riddle related to ice. I think I think that we need to integrate polarity more and come at this from a polar harmonic approach and not see ice as being something that's a barrier. It's deeper. There's a deeper code related to the ice that I'm deciphering. It has a lot to do with frozen imagination. It's about bending what you think is possible. And this kind of goes into this concept of earth bending. I don't know if y'all saw that show Avatar and those like earth benders and stuff like that. I've been in a lot of those frequencies working with the dragons and stuff. You kind of need to work with like the forces of gravity, and when you're working the dragon path, that's why dragons are seen as being so old, so wise, so ancient, so knowledgeable, all that kind of stuff. Like, it's kind of like next level sort of stuff. So the curriculum is, can you literally move time and space? Can you move gravity? Can you move the forces of gravity to get what you need to get accomplished? Like, this is this octave of leadership that the draconic frequency is working within. And I'm not going to elevate them and say like, oh, this means that you've ascended and you've made it. You're working with the dragons. Like, I think right now I'm navigating another part of the game board. And, my goal is mastering the will of samsara. So I got to know all those realms to get to the devas. That's the big kahunas. You got to play by their rules, right? You know what I'm saying? You got to do how they do. You got to see how have they created what they've created. You have to go through the motions. How are you going to know what to change? How are you going to know what to evolve? So this message isn't going to hit for everybody, but for a mastery of this game board, which would be like mastering the wheel of samsara, those 6 realms, a lot of people, they know the realm of the hungry ghost. They know the realm of the asuras. They know the realm of the humans and the animals. They know hell. But do you know the devas though? Like, really know them? Like, really? Like, have access and all that? And so when you're getting into that realm, that's when the dragon energy is going to come on full force. You might be getting nudges while you're in other realms, but it doesn't, like, at least my experience is that it didn't fully like turn on until I started changing my permissions in the simulation in terms of what information I was able to access. And then I needed to have a certain intention for me to even activate this draconic energy to the capacity that I'm working with it now. And it had to do with partnership and union, and actually saying like, you know what, because you're going to make this happen. So this is another message I want to share with XX chromosome dragon coded womb carriers. I don't know, like, I'm still working on the name. Okay. You guys are going to create this dynamic. You are the goddess, the god, the goddess. You are source. So even like navigating ice walls and all that stuff, we're in the realm of Neptune with ice, right? Lots of illusion, lots of house of mirrors, what's real, what's not. A lot of the obstructions that you might be experiencing, and they might feel very real, and it might seem like this makes no sense to even go in this direction. All I see is trauma. All I see is drama. I'm gonna go the other direction. I'm gonna work on my business. I'm gonna travel. I'm gonna study. I'm gonna, I don't need to be part, like, you'll get to a certain point where access will be closed off to you because you're closing off a certain potentiality. Okay. So yeah, but the interesting thing that we're going to explore more on Black Diamond is this concept of we're going to be working on some non-traditional concepts related to twin flame union. I don't think we have been maximizing the full potential because we haven't known what's at stake. We've been kind of on neutral with certain things, because we're like, I don't know if I want to like go full in. But I just want you to think like, I know there's folks out there that did really well in school, right? or you have like a competitive edge. If you're like in that dragon energy, you want to be the best. Okay. And if you find out that this whole twin flame thing is keeping you from being the best, like you not uniting with your twin flame keeps you from all the options that you want, a lot of y'all are going to wake up and be like, you know what? We're going to get this done. I don't know how we're going to get this done, but we're not thinking about like, oh, I don't want to seem like I'm a pick Misha and that I'm like chasing over a man. It's not about that. It's really all about you and your evolution. And you need to meet this partner at a frequential match that matches your evolution. That's you. You need to do that. As the womb-coded dragon being, you need to do that. That has to be through you. So you can get what you need to get done. Okay? So this ain't about romance and flowers and this and this and that, because a lot of us don't really need it like that because we're cool, like we're good. But this is about advancing on life's game board for earthly administration. So you got to get your, that twin out there might literally just have codes. Okay, this sounds, and now we're getting really not romantic with this. I'm seeing this more from a game, okay? And I'm seeing how a lot of times a simulation has made love about competition and about seeing your value in somebody else. So it's all distorted. A lot of this is distorted, so I get that. But if we were to take this from a game concept, so earlier I gave you a school concept, a game concept would be, let's say you're playing a video game, right? And your twin flame is like a magic unicorn dragon that has the opportunity to grant you even other treasures on your path. Like you just need to get to that magic unicorn dragon and then like unify with it, and then boom. Like it's an empowerment in your game, okay? And that's not what they want us to think of it as, okay? But I want you to just remember, for those out there that know that movie/book, The Hunger Games, Katniss Everdeen with the bow and arrow, who's giving a lot of Artemis energy in that. Artemis did not want to be coupled. That Greek goddess Artemis, she wanted to be in the woods and hunt, and she wanted to be left alone and be a virgin, basically, do her own thing. But that Artemis archetype, Katniss Everdeen in the Hunger Games, did not have a choice in the matter. She was a warrior. She was good on her own. Like she was way more, she had that dragon energy too. She was the girl on fire. I'm just remembering that. They had a lot of fire imagery and stuff. She didn't really need to be coupled like that, but she realized that it was in her best interest to advance on the game board to be coupled. And she ended up experiencing benefits. It's not to say that there aren't benefits and that you can't fall in love, but it's actually not because of that. It's a much more primordial reason why you're doing it. And a lot of it is like clearing a lot of these polarized timelines of the matriarchy and the patriarchy being divided. We're going to need to, as much drama and trauma that has been perpetuated, as bad as things can seem, there will need to be a higher octave or more expanded octave of partnership and love that's birthed. And there are certain beings who are coded who can do that, more of a draconic frequency, who also might have access to records when that was more of a thing. Who they remember being parthenogenetic. If you have that frequency of parthenogenesis in your coding somewhere, you know what it's like to love without feeling incomplete. All right. Imagine how could the world shift if we had partnerships where two people got together complete within themselves, just as a baseline, and they were coded to be together? How might that shift the dynamics of everything in life? With the creational force of love, with the creational force of Kundalini, with the creational force of Tantra, it would be wild. It would be so wild. The simulations game board and this whole thing around competition and wearing your partner on your arm like a trophy because you don't feel like complete within yourself, like that can't stand when relationships like that are being manifested and shown and demonstrated in the same area. It just won't happen, especially with a more of a draconic frequency and beings who know that they Carry that frequency. It's going to change a lot as it relates to earthly administration. But a lot of us have been held up because we've been so traumatized by these, patriarchal narratives, and we've gotten a lot of joy and pleasure doing our own thing, to be honest. We're good. We have that parthiogenic coding anyway. But it's a little bit more nuanced than that, y'all. We're not in we're in a polarized game board. The way to navigate outside of it is through more so unifying the opposites and being the more of the Buddha, who is at neutral 0 point. You're going to be able to move more freely and gracefully on, and the goal is off of the game board, but you must master all the realms. And if one of those realms has super restrictive elite policies and stipulations, sometimes when you think about the big picture, the legacy picture, more than just this incarnation, when you think about it from a legacy standpoint, you start realizing, oh, this actually benefits me to do this. This is a political move, okay, that maybe will make more sense for me to do in the long run, okay? It'll give me more sovereignty and agency in the long run. Strategic, strategy, chess. This is a game board, okay? Do they want, does the patriarchy want us thinking this way? Definitely no. Because it puts us a lot more in power and stuff like that. And if you do have a creational capacity, like if you really, really are operating in your Deva mode, your goddess mode, can't you create then the exact partnership that will be beneficial to you? But you have to believe that you can. A lot of us can't even imagine, because we've been coded to see traumatic relationship after traumatic relationship. And that was all a part of the social conditioning program to keep us out of earthly administration. So we got to buck up. All right. I know, it's a weird way to put it, but yeah, we need to, some of us, I'm talking to a very distinct group of people out there. Look, we got to put the pride aside. Oh, I'm not going to go chasing after a man and if he's not ready, I'm not carrying him. Okay. I'm just saying I've been on that side. It's more nuanced than that. You are walking away from a group project, from your assigned partner, that keeps you away from getting this certification. Oh, I'm not chasing my partner. No, I'm sure you would chase your partner. No, wouldn't you? You would go find their address. You would knock on, and I'm not saying you do it that literal way, because that's not going to work. It's not going to work. You doing it the 3D way of hey, I got this intuitive hit that you're my twin flame. So can we go out? I don't recommend doing that either. we're in, this is the realm of more strategy. Okay. And this is something we'll be diving into more. But what I'm hearing is that the planetary dragon frequency, they really only want to mess with people who are interested in union, because what it means is your interest, that shows you have a consciousness, a collective consciousness. You're able to see things for the collective good. Not saying it's right or wrong. I'm saying I've been getting downloads about what this hidden curriculum is, and this is a part of it. There's a twin flame test that you're gonna need to pass in order to get more access. That's all I can say. All right, let's see what the comments are. Marina says, it's a great tool to manifest things here or create the reality that you want after this life. Outside this time matrix, for example, it's like when you want something and then you live in the end. Yeah, this is a part of can you materialize this dream? Can you make this dream come true? A lot of us have been putting the stuff around the twin, though, on the shelf, and we've been going after the other dreams that we have, which maybe they seem more important to us. Maybe we want them more. But I think what some of us, not all, but some of us are not seeing is that union opens up more access to those other things, and This is when they say, this is that crossroads that some of us come to of like, am I going to play the game? Well, when you don't play the game, you stay in polarity and then you stay on the game board. So then you do get to a point where you need to start playing the game board consciously. Like, you're in a game and you're playing it consciously. Life is a game of chess and you're consciously playing that game of chess. Earthly administration. There's a hidden curriculum for that, y'all. It's okay. Marina says it's already mine and you have no doubts or spiraling. Yes. Yes. You can manifest a specific person or your twin flame. Yes. And, I used to read a lot from that website, Aligning with Earth. And that was one thing that the creator of that website, she does some really great work specifically on this topic and the dragons and this concept of healing the planet and how the planetary grid system is in our bodies and how we heal, the planet heals and all that stuff, and how certain people are incarnated to help with that planetary evolution. One thing she said was, she got to a point where she realized that she wouldn't be able to spiritually evolve the way she wanted to without her twin flame. So she had to go find her twin flame. But the problem is that her twin flame was basically like, he was in a whole like karmic marriage. He wasn't happy, but he wasn't going to leave the kids and the wife, right? What a lot of people do. This happens all the time. This is the archonic social structure. I'll be doing more content on the archonic social structure and the archonic family structure. A lot of like dragon coded, a lot of womb coded beings. Y'all gotta start pulling rank on archonic social structures, okay? Because it's all topsy turvy, y'all. It's all like you're in the upside down if it's the other way around, really. They need to be working on your behalf. They need to be giving you the ins and outs, okay? You don't need to be afraid of them or bullied by them. If you feel that way, there is a distorted mirror in your realm that you're going to have to crack, But all that to say, like, you get to a certain point where you need to decide, is it worth it? Because what she ended up doing is she ended up accessing her twin flame, because they had met like one time at like a retreat that she was giving, I think she said. And they connected, but then life happened. She got married, he got married, you know how things go. But she got insight that he was her twin flame. And I believe even before she met him, I think she said she saw him in a dream. But she said she literally had to pull him from a parallel realm in order to materialize him in her world. Because that's what happens a lot with this twin flame that you're, quote, supposed to be with. For people who have been in a false twin flame scenario, what I think it is that you're meant to transcend the frequency bandwidth that you met that one twin flame at. So you're now registering that twin flame as false because you're supposed to evolve out of that frequential bandwidth. And then there's a twin for you there, because this whole game board's based on polarity and a breeding program. That's just how it is. But there's a twin for you there in that higher, more expanded frequency bandwidth, which to me just means more access and permissions and information and free movement. That's all it means for me. It's like the difference, we can say that this world's a simulation or this world's a game, right? But there's a different thing between, having a game that's like a little Nintendo thing, right? That's one game. Or you could have like a VR headset on, right? Or you could literally be in an immersive environment where there are degrees to how you're able to experience this game board or this earth school, but you need access and permissions for them. There are certain beings that you can connect with and gain access to a lot of information if you can meet them in that frequential bandwidth, but you have to be able to do that first. So she ended up, this woman who wrote Aligning with Earth, her twin flame was in a parallel realm. So she had to pull him from a parallel realm, merge the opposites and materialize, make it so that the timelines, you actually literally have to play with time. You have to, this is why, if you're interested in Saturn, okay, if you are like really deep into Saturn and stuff, that's dragons. They're the earthly administrator, like they're dragon lines. That's it. But I got to a certain point because I kept breaking the veils of the simulation. And like when I realized that this was a game board, it was right after I had a particular dragon initiation when I was like, oh, okay, I see how this works and stuff. But yeah, you have to move time. That's Saturn. You a lot of times it's about placement too, you know. It's also about, are you guys in the same frequential bandwidth? So that's one thing I'm working on right now, like me and, you know, who I'm seeing as my twin flame, we're not on the same frequential bandwidth. One of the things I did see was ice and stuff. I also saw metal, like lots of metal, like kind of bars and stuff like that. So from what I've seen, he might not like be at that frequential bandwidth to even like for us to connect. Because I just recently got there myself, to be honest, you know. So if I didn't care that much, I could be like, oh man, hope he makes it. I don't know. You know, I'm not going to wait on him though like that. I got my own thing. I got my own growth and evolution. But having this more holistic perspective of like, my thriving depends on him, his thriving depends on my thriving kind of thing. My grade depends on his grade. Oh, okay, we're going to have to work on this. We're going to have to, we're going to make it happen, okay? Because I know where I'm going. I know what I need to do. So whatever I got to do, it's going to get done. Okay. So it's kind of like, you kind of need to bring in that big mama energy into it, you know? And then this is another weird thing. Cause it's like, how many like XX chromosomes, right, have trauma with like feeling like they're like mothering their partners, right? And like, it's like, I don't want to be the mom. I don't want to be the mom, but you kind of are. Kind of, you know, so it gets weird. You have to integrate a lot of polarity for that because, and I won't get into the whole nine of how it goes, but you are very much creating your twin flame the way this works. You know, you rank high on this game board. Okay, if you know you do, you have to actually know you do for these codes to be activated. All right, let's see. Emerald Ray Love. Hey, I've been working a lot with the Emerald Ray lately. If you have a twin that quote unquote sold his soul and is a celebrity, how does that affect the life of the other twin? Oh, terribly, especially if you're an XX chromosome. You're getting everything. You sold your soul, basically. That's how it goes, you know? So you would need to get off. There's a control grid that we as XX chromosomes need to transcend. I talked about it in the recent download I did on the money trees. I did a money trees download on Patreon, and I go into the whole graphic thing that I saw related to that, of how these control grids. But it has to do with money. It has to do with money a lot of times. And so, you know, just thinking about that whole concept of like your twin flame being a celebrity and like, or like your twin flame selling their soul and stuff like that, that's very much like a money control grid. And so what's happening in the simulations game board is love is being equated with money, right? How much you care about somebody is usually reflected in, you know, what can you provide for them? And a lot of that's been because we've been in a survival consciousness. People are trying to survive, you know, so when you're in survival consciousness, you actually really can't love. Like, it's hard for you to love if you're in a survival consciousness. You're focused on surviving. You're in a state of non-love because you've been put in a traumatic environment where you're just focusing on surviving. You can't even thrive. So a lot of us have been spoon-fed this narrative around what love is, but that's just been all trauma and codependency. That's not even love. Your heart doesn't even start turning on and activating. I'm gonna be honest, y'all, and I've done a lot of heart chakra meditations and stuff like that. I didn't like start getting to a deeper sense of this like unity consciousness, stuff like that, until I decided to accept my twin flame like into my narrative, into my timeline. It's a game board though. That doesn't mean I'm just naturally heartless. Like, I do believe I have an energy outside of this simulations thing that has going on. So I think I transcend the soul because the soul was created in this simulation, like that wording and stuff. I'm more than a soul. You know, my consciousness is more than a soul. So it's not even, you know, this is why it's also helpful to see things as a game board, because you haven't advanced on the board enough to even activate parts of the emotions that would be required for you to be in a non-codependent relationship. Because, the control, like a lot of those control matrices are going to keep you in a state of survival. Yeah, love is money in that, but you have to expand outside of that frequential bandwidth, which means you need to reconcile all of these money issues. And a lot of the feminine collective, or the XX chromosome collective, this has been really hard for us, because the money has been utilized as a hypnotic force to keep us out of our power. So we need to overcome that, see that, get through that. And until then, even if you separate from your twin flame and you have nothing to do with them, and you say, well, he sold his soul to celebrities, like, I got to stay far away from him. He's on his own journey now. I cut the cord. Actually, you didn't. You're attached to his tree. And for more information on that, you can check out my Patreon. Okay. Bethany says, how do you know if you are dragon coded? You just know. Like, I knew, well, okay. You'll see them. At some point, you'll see them. Like, so if you see them in meditation and stuff, yeah. Like, because that's how it happened for me. I just saw them it was like a random experience, and I didn't even know about this parallel realm. So I didn't know any of that. I just was doing a particular, there are some mantras too. I was doing a mantra sort of thing, Vedic mantras. And there was one that I was doing that just took me into this realm. And I saw, it took me a while to know what was going on with that. But it was really like, it was showing me my dragon consciousness, but I had to neutralize a lot of polarity around fear of like, well, what's that dragon doing? Like, what's happening? But it just meant I wasn't ready to interface with that consciousness. But it showed me a few years ago, like, hey, we're here. This is an aspect of you that you can access when you're ready. And yeah. So, and then once the twin flame thing made sense to me and it clicked, then the dragon work really clicked. I'm like, oh, this is why I've been doing what I've been doing. This is why I've been getting certain blockages. Like, it all kind of like made a lot more sense, because I had the consciousness. It's like I activated the consciousness with that decision to see that. Okay. So yeah, like if you see them at some point, then, and they'll make themselves known for sure. Yes, dragons are very active right now. See, yeah, Bethany, even the fact that, come on. Yeah, because you've been asking about dragons and stuff a lot. But what I will say is you need to go through different, first you see the dragon as being other and kind of scary. Well, first you think it doesn't exist, and then you think it's like other and scary. And then you can see them as being like, they're the guardians of the grids, actually, too. So they can also feel adversarial. The dragon lines sometimes will bounce you back, or say you can't pass for certain things. And I've been working a lot of, my particular lines, through astrocartography and stuff when I travel, and I can see it happening in real time. And it's all been to get me to this concept of like, okay, to prepare you for a more expanded form of leadership, we need to get you accepting love outside of the frequency bandwidth that you currently know love. And we literally can't work through you in the way that you want us to, or in the way we want to, until that's done. Okay. But it's kind of a weird, this is where the Hunger Games scenario comes in, because there's all these things built in, or all these obstructions built in for you to not do that. So it's, a lot of times the odds can be stacked against you. That's why the meditative practice is really helpful too. With doing this kind of stuff. All right, we got, okay, Dim Fox says nuclear god, lesser or higher, both are a lot of work. What is dragon coded? It's just you are a dragon. Yeah, you're a dragon. And it starts, it's like waking up from amnesia. you know? You start with maybe being interested in them, being attracted to some of the legends. Then maybe you see them in meditation and you're like, oh, I have a dragon guardian, and then maybe you're afraid of them. And then maybe you decide to ride the dragon. That's what that movie, How to Train Your Dragon, is about. They're preparing like collective consciousness to evolve. And in order to evolve, you got to work with your dragon. You got to train your dragon, the dragon within you. And at some point, you don't ride the dragon because you are the dragon. You don't need to ride no dragon. You have your own wings, you know? And then there are people on this planet who are dragons, straight up. Like, that's the energetic signature that they have. And they run companies, they run administrative offices, and they're dragons. And you're fish food. If you're identifying as being a human, and that's that, and you're dealing with cultivating your human aura and all that, you're with dragons. Who's going to win? The dragon, obviously. You think you're going to be leadership and not be a dragon? Come on now. So this is what I mean about this whole simulations game board being based upon rank and hierarchy too. You know what I mean? Okay. Oh, Yamana Synergy says, should I stay with my woman? Ooh, I don't know. Tell me more. Yeah, if you want to go, also, if y'all want to put up a, if you are somehow, I won't say your name or whatever. If you want to like give a, what's happening in your world, and we can maybe collectively provide some feedback. I don't know what's making you even ask that. Like, just the fact you asked that makes me wonder, like, maybe you already know the answer, like what's going on? Okay. Bethany says, same. I saw my person in a dream first. Exactly. There you go. You're not going to find this. Like, so I would say, like, so some people might be like, oh, okay, so I need to link with my twin flame. All right, let me get on the dating apps. No, don't do it. That's not, it's different. You're doing things in a different frequency. And whatever's going on in those dating apps and stuff, no, it's not in that same frequency bandwidth. Now, somebody mentioned earlier spiritual dating sites. I don't want to like throw poo-poo on that or whatever, because like, hey, maybe that does work. Because also, like, if maybe you create your world to where you only match with people who will bring you closer to this twin partnership. Maybe you work the forces in that way. But a lot of times there's certain beings on those spiritual apps, like, they're waiting. They're waiting, So just because they're on a spiritual dating site doesn't mean that they have the same goals that you do, They might say so, but yeah. Okay, positively blissful mystic. I have been metaphysically connected to them consciously for 20 years. You have me rethinking something I swore I would never touch again, and I abolished him from my kingdom. I know. This is why I'm being pushed to like speak about this, and I got to put myself out there when I do it, because I know, you swear up and down, like, I am not falling for this trick. I'm not all this sort of stuff. 20 years is a bit, what if, I mean, if the stakes were your evolution, right? Your advancement in all realms and dimensions. Have you been going hard like the way and I don't mean in sense of like calling, yeah, that's not going to work. Calling, texting, trying to meet in the same place. No, that's not the way this is going to go down. It's like some very extensive energy work from a state of wholeness. It's not about like you feeling less and I need to be completed by a twin flame. No. It won't work. But if you're working with this kind of consciousness, like more of a planetary, like galactic consciousness, that sort of stuff, have you been utilizing all the resources that you can to make this happen? Have you been going the extra mile for that A on your assignment? You know what I'm saying? Like, so that might be something to consider, because there are many parallel realms, right? And so something might have happened with that version of your twin in that particular parallel, like in a very parallel state. But like, what if you were able to consciously work to meet at like the same vibrational bandwidth that you, because you have to, in order to hold it, it's a very powerful energy. So to be able to hold that takes a lot of work, and there's so many obstructions, and it's through the grid systems a lot of times where it's happening. And to be honest, it's also being done through the dragons. They're testing. It's a whole testing ground. They're going to test you too. You know, you have to master certain dragon energies. This is just stuff that's been revealed to me, that I've been moving through, but it's also been confirmed with, you know, the sort of things I've done, you know, studying different all male initiations and stuff. It's tracking, you know. Yeah, but that's why dragons are usually a big thing in mythology and kingdoms, on coats of arms. You know, look out for the coats of arms, look out for the flags. You know, different dragons mean different things, and they mean mastery of different principles. So this is black diamond is for dragons. Okay, that was made really clear to me. I was like, okay, I know that this black diamond tier on Patreon is like for people who are like really in like a path of advancement. You know, you're moving into this whole like polarity integration stuff, you know, but it's also the black diamond path. It's the most, you know, valuable type of diamond, the most indestructible, but it's difficult, you know. I knew that it was a lot about Saturn, transcending some of the frequencies of Saturn, learning the Saturnian energies and stuff. Yeah, it's a very dragon sort of stuff. Okay. Bethany says, yes, the first dragon I encountered was in a womb clearing meditation you put together. Really? Okay. Yes. I was working with that womb clearing meditation. I saw them more as guardians. Like I didn't see them as aspects of my own consciousness the way I do now. But yes, they were coming strong really heavily. And one thing you'll know about dragons, if you're starting to connect with them, they like silence a lot of times. Like you'll find that not to say you won't create music, because they'll actually help you a lot with sound, but they don't like a lot of busy stuff going off in the background. Like I notice when I'm really sometimes it feels like I'm in a course, you know, I'm being telepathically guided through like a whole degree of study, and it can change. And I notice that I all of a sudden like don't want to watch TV. I don't want to and a lot of times I'll do work and put things on in the background and stuff, but I find that I don't want to do it, or that it seems like it would just get in the way. It would keep me off of focus, because it's like, you know, I study a lot. I go through a lot of different texts and materials and practices and sounds every single day. But, you know, since everything kicked off full gear, when I was like, all right, I'm gonna accept my twin. You know how they say, do you accept your Lord and and Savior Jesus into your heart? I kind of had to do that. I was like, I accept my twin flame into my heart. And then it was like, boom, all right, now we're ready. Let's go. I'm like, oh, y'all have been giving me this information. Okay, I get it now. Like it started clicking. But yeah, it really is like that, y'all. Or else they're like, why are you here then? Like, you're not even going to be able to keep up with this if you don't have this sense of unity consciousness. What are you doing? Try again. Like when you get it right. Okay, I was calling one in, and before I could, it landed into help. Shocked me so much, I almost jolted out of it, LOL. Yeah. Space 34 says, my friend, I lost your mobile number. You never had my mobile number. Gotta keep climbing says, so what if you were intimate with someone in a dream before you ever knew they existed, and then you come across them? Oh, wow. That's kind of cool, right? I don't know. Like, how was it when y'all came across? Like, that's such a cool love story, like a book or a movie or something. That's cool. But yeah, usually those ones, if you guys are that telepathically connected, then I would assume that maybe there's a obstruction of some kind. Like you meet them, but they're married, or you meet them and then this happens, you know, like, because things are usually at an imbalance. Like your Your assignment is unity. Your assignment is evolving out of codependency. Can you be in a relationship outside of lack? Can you be in a relationship from a state of wholeness? We have been trained to do everything opposite. You know how much mental deprogramming you have to do before you're even ready to share the same room as your twin? You might attack each other, if you're not like, because the energies can be so strong, if you're, and you'll mirror like the worst qualities onto each other. So you might want to gouge their eyes out, so you would want to just, if that happened, work with connecting with them, not from a state of neediness, but from a state of like, I'm whole and complete and I want to learn more, yeah. And also, like, I don't know the details of I'm not asking you to describe it. I'm just saying, I don't know the details of y'all being intimate. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that it doesn't necessarily mean that they're your twin. Like, there could be something else at play. So I would need to know more. Okay. She Talk Yushua says, real twin flames disturb each other's energy from 1,000 miles. Yes. Yes. I'm not going to get into like all the details here, but I just so happened to be in the same city as mine. And it was weird because I was feeling the need to go to this city a couple years back, but then the obstructions would happen and it would just, I would be like, okay, I'm not supposed to go there. I don't know why I wanted to go there, but I'm not supposed to go there. And I would just forget about it. And even when I was planning on going to the city, there were so many obstructions. It felt like the people I was communicating with, like there was static, like they would be calling me and I wouldn't see them call me. They would be messaging me, but no messages would come up, like, or I would be messaging them and no message. Like, it just seemed like I was in a completely different frequency bandwidth from that city. Almost to the point where I was like, okay, this is weird. Like, what's going on? I always ask, like, if I get a lot of interference, I'll be like, well, what's going on in this city? And then I'm like, oh, okay, I have a twin. But that didn't mean I wanted to go there anymore. I'm like, like, because I was in that healing from the energy harvesting of twins, twin flames. I was like, oh, I got to watch out for that. Not another one. I'm not doing it again, But even for me I had to clear some stuff, even for me to be in that same city. And even then I wasn't doing it because I wanted to unite. It was just like, I was on a polarity integration journey. I was thinking that I could unite with a twin within myself and that's that, so I was just trying to integrate the polarity so I could unite with my inner masculine from within, but to be honest, that twin materializing in my world actually activated a lot of inner masculine, like it triggered a whole bunch of stuff. It triggered a whole bunch of stuff for me. And I didn't put the pieces together until later, like, oh, that wouldn't have happened without that interaction. And so that was one of the things that was being revealed to me as I was getting this information about the nature of the twin flame assignment for people who are evolving on this planet. Not saying it's right or wrong, but it's an assignment nonetheless. And you could be enrolled in school, right? And be like, this school sucks. I'm dropping out. Okay. Yeah. And I did that. Trust me. I did the dropout thing too. Cause I was like, I don't know what y'all got going on, but I don't like it. And in my spirit, something about this feels off. I'm dropping out. I'm not playing this game. And you can do that. But then, sometimes you come to it. I guess this is the closest I've ever gotten to making a deal. You know how they're like, oh, they took a deal. They did it. And I felt it intuitively. I'm like, I'm moving into a frequency where I'm about to take some kind of a deal. But I see that it makes sense for my end game to take it. But I was feeling it. I'm like, oh, this is the frequency people go into. Yeah. And then I was like, okay, it's the twin. I get it. Okay. Makes sense. Okay. Let's see. Bethany says, in Avatar, The Last Airbender, dragons are the original masters of firebending. And I don't think that's a coincidence either. Whoa, I got to watch that. I don't think I finished the whole series. Oh, okay. Yeah. I got to watch the firebenders. I got to watch that. I got to look at that way more closely. Noreen says, I have. You have what? Bethany says, my mindset with mine is get over here. We have shit to do. Exactly. But then, like, you got to get, like, and this is why we do it from a state of wholeness. Because I'm not, as they say, they call it pick Misha. Like, pick me, come on. Like, I just really want my partner. And yeah, like, we can ride off into the sunset. It's not that way. But then if you really want to get that shit done, like, what links would you go energetically to ensure that shit got done? Especially if if you're an XX chromosome, you outrank him. So it just on the simulations game board, the way it's set up. So then it is actually on you. Like your Hermione, what is it? Hermione Granger in Harry Potter. You know what I mean? She was always in the library. Okay. She was always saving everybody with her knowledge and figuring stuff out. You know what I'm saying? So you kind of gotta, and she pulled the weight of like what, 2-3 students in one. Okay, maybe more, maybe the professor. So you kind of have to be the Hermione Granger of the relationship, which is interesting because it kind of like makes sense with her relationship with Ron. They kind of had that twin opposite dynamic too going on. Okay. Harris Navas said, I want to see the lady behind this beautiful voice. Okay, well, look. There's tons of content for you to see my face, okay? It's not a requirement to see my face like every time I post something. It's very easy. If it's a desire you have, it can easily be fulfilled. Haris Nava 6168. Bethany says, you can see Heather and others. See, thank you. You can see Heather in other videos on her channel. She's beautiful inside and out. Thank you, Bethany. Angela Martin said hi. Hi, Angela. Bethany says, make some sense about Dragon Coded. Thank you for the clarification, Heather. You're helping me make a lot of connections. I accepted who my twin flame was and that I needed to connect with them. Then the heart thawing started and I was thawing to open to love more. Yeah, because your heart is like literally in another frequency bandwidth. I posted something about this on Patreon because I've done so many different heart meditations, because I knew this was an issue. I'm like, I'm not accessing a part of my heart space that I'm supposed to be accessing. But it was because it's like a treasure hunt. You're not on the right game board to get to what you need. And they do treat it like that. They treat it like a treasure hunt. They talk about certain realms and stuff. Like, you do have to go to certain things that sound like they're mythological, but they're literally giving you a map. They just, what y'all need to watch out for now? Those hollow earth videos, the flat earth videos, the worlds behind the ice wall. Look at that close. Start looking at that a little bit differently. Because right now it just looks, oh, this is interesting. Oh, okay, that's cool. Oh, well, or there are realms within the game board. And I only know this because I've been to these places, but I didn't see the maps. And I started mapping out, that's what a lot of my albums, I do I just actually did one related to this whole concept of the twin flame and uniting with them. And I utilized a lot of Vedic mantras for that. But I sometimes create albums to map out these realms because there's a formula. It's a game. And they'll talk about similar realms that they visit or similar types of information because they're accessing a certain part of the game. So sometimes to even get access to these things, you have to go into different realms. Like to get access to the dragons, like you have to master the underworld. If you're afraid of the underworld, you ain't connecting with no dragons. If you're just trying to ascend, yeah, there are, you can ascend into 22nd chakra or something, right? And you can see a dragon. It's going to be of a certain frequency, but you'll need to kind of work the cross. You notice how the cross has an up and down and a left and a right, there are different draconic frequencies to tap into. within the Earth's axis and within this plane and stuff. But there are other energies that you have to get off of this realm or or out of this particular realm of the simulation to experience. Okay, that's funny because I got the download to consider upgrading my membership to Black Diamond. Yeah, we look, and they're very demanding in the sense of like, I don't know, like that professor where it's like I don't know, the best way I can describe it if we're talking about school is like, imagine there's like a brilliant professor where it's like they're famous, they like published all these books, right? And then like everybody wants to get into that class because apparently like it's a life-changing class. That's like the energy, and it's like, if you're gonna be here, you're gonna be here. Okay, like the Dragon Path is also it's teaching, sharing, like, and like larger, like building larger communities. So they're pushing me because I like a lot of, I like to kind of be in my own little world, my own little dreamland too. I love that. But I'm being also guided to apply more structure and more force with how I structure certain things. Yeah, they're making me completely rethink how I do my business. Like there's a whole thing that they're doing with me. But yeah, they want me to. It's like Black Diamond right now is where I'm first sharing what they're and even for me to connect with them, I had to go through a whole rigmarole to finally just for it to like make sense. Okay, so I have been doing a lot of heavy energetic work to connect with my twin flame. Definitely got my Hermione Granger vibe going on. Exactly. And it feels different when you do it from a place of this is good for everyone involved, including me, and there's like a good, I think a good avatar to work with is Kuan Yin. She's always come through in a clutch. She's known for this like expansive compassion, and there's also some dragon lore related to her. They water her down a lot with the way they talk about her now, but there's like a fierce compassion, like a fierce like grandmotherly not grandma, like, yeah, but it's a love and a compassion that transcends time, circumstance, condition, that you anchor into your reality. And you have to be at such a place of fullness and wholeness to hold that vibration, but that's how it feels better. It doesn't feel like, because we've all been in situations where maybe we've been at a state of imbalance and we wanted to unite with a twin flame so that we could get out of that state of imbalance, but then that means we're not ready. So we felt that, and that doesn't like feel good. That feels like you feel like you're in lack, you feel like you're fallen, right? Like you feel like, yeah, it's of a different frequency. But when you're able to hold that otherworldly compassion, planetary, like more of a planetary stewardship energy, like an intergalactic stewardship energy, and knowing that it's the best for you, because I do firmly believe, I don't believe in this concept of love that they try to brainwash us with, where like we have to be unhappy for other people to show that we love. I think that's false. I think that's so false. And a lot of people will call you. So it was weird. It's like I knew what love was, but I couldn't access it. That's how I was feeling for a really long time. I knew that what was being put in my face wasn't love, and I didn't want to have anything to do with it. But then I felt like I couldn't frequentially access the love that was more on the holistic or the scale, the frequency bandwidth I wanted to step into, because your heart is it's a whole operating station. It's a whole communication interface. It's a brain, heart brain coherence. Like if your heart's turned all the way on, that's a huge thing, And so that's why a lot of times hearts are manipulated, because it keeps people in a state of like disempowerment and stuff. But coming at this from a state of fullness, it doesn't feel heavy, it just feels like this, and you don't feel the pressures of time, like, oh, I'm in lack when I'm not with my twin flame. No, I'm not. Like, I'm full right now. You could only get better from here, And it's going to be great because I'm stewarding this. Okay. So I'm designing this right now. You're in a state of world building with your relationship, and it's not done from a place of, I need this to feel good. I already feel good. I'm in a state of fullness, and things only get better from here. But a lot of womb coded beings who are also dragon coded, you might stay in this sense of feeling fallen, or like you're missing the mark somehow. And it might be because of this union thing, y'all. Okay, let's see. Yes, doing it from wholeness within the intention that reflects in the internal. Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's it, y'all. That's all she wrote. That's my download around the how another way to perceive twin flame union, specifically for XX chromosome womb coded beings who maybe don't feel motivated to unify because they're in a state of completion right now or in happiness right now. And so they're like, well, why would I want to get into that energy harvesting energy? It depends on like what your overall goals are, and they might transcend the frequency bandwidth that you're currently on to reach them. So you might need more unrestricted movement, and that opens up if you commit to union outside of the control matrix, though. So yeah, I've soon specifically related to meditation. Okay, let's talk meditation. Let's look, we have to meditate. And not have to. Like, it's great. You get to explore other realms. Like, I go into meditation with a problem. I come out, it's not a problem no more. It's been handled. It's not, it literally, I changed my world by going into a 25-minute meditation practice and alchemizing some stuff. And more of us need to be tapping into our inner realms, because what's happening is we're trying to express too much outwardly, and then we're not seeing the changes because everybody's programmed in the matter realms. Exactly. Yeah, everybody's programmed in the matter realms. So you go in the back end, or you need to go into, also morphinogenic fields. This is like merging the opposites, your the particle realms with the antiparticle realms, the matter realms with the antimatter realms, morphinogenic fields. This is where more expanded frequency bandwidths are. When you go into meditation, it's a lot easier for you to access these things, okay? And access more expanded consciousness. And this will literally grow your world. This will grow your game board the more you can turn within. And a lot of people have been trained to do this from a very early age, and they've been running around, okay, in a whole bunch of realms, doing a whole bunch of whatever they want. And you're none the wiser, stuck in the 3D loop or whatever, when there's whole bunch of other worlds to integrate. Okay, so yeah, and check out my Patreon. I have I think the one where I share meditations is called Holographic Rose. So on Holographic Rose, yeah, you'll get all the meditations and stuff like that. And sometimes it's challenging. Sometimes you might fall asleep because literally you'll have to address an aspect of your subconscious mind that doesn't want you to tap in, or that says, oh, that's restricted information, just go to sleep, like a little sleeping spell, literally. I've seen this happen. I've talked to people where this happens. So it's like working out, but like for your consciousness, it's strength training, because this is some heavy duty stuff, but it gets easier and more fun and more joyful the more you do it. But you got to work out that muscle. So if you want more tools, the Patreon, I know you can find a meditation anywhere, right? Everybody's doing a meditation, but on what frequency bandwidth? It's just, what's the goal? Some people, like, the content I make is for people who, they're very capable. They just need to remember their power. And sometimes y'all might have been put through the ringer to like not evolve. Like, you're really advanced, but like you're being held sometimes, or it can feel that way, at least in the control mechanism that you're in. So you got to like wake up out of that. And that's what these meditations are for, specifically for that, like navigating the control system. I don't think a lot of meditations are doing that, you know? So yeah. And then also you learn how to, you know, there's also people, a lot of people I connect with actually are meant to have their own collectives or groups, or, you know, doing this kind of energy. And so the Patreon is good too if this is something you want to do and you're like, oh, well, I want to make meditations one day, or I want to make subliminals one day, or, you know, like, how does this work? Like, my Patreon, specifically the Black Diamond one, is a really great way for, you know, like, we were just on a call, and like everybody on that call has their own, you know, they have their own like practice in some way, you know? So it's a good way to see this happen in real time. Like, you can take a course, but like, what does this look like as you're cultivating a practice? You know, what does it look like to cultivate a practice to transcend a control matrix? Like, what does that look like? You know, so if that's something that, you know, that you're here to do, or you're ready to do that in a deeper level, or you want to learn more tools, then that's why I have it. Yeah, it's for people who are interested in transcending the wheel of samsara. Okay, let's see. Yes. So anyway, thank you. Have a great rest of your day. Bye, everyone.